Minette and I had the opportunity of visiting Poland with Camp Ramah. Not exactly Camp Ramah. Camp Ramah, which you're familiar with, is a network of 8 summer camps throughout North America and South America, soon to be opening a 9th and possibly a 10th. And the summer camps, like Habonim Dror, that Gabriel and his brother Yaakov attend, are focused on youth activities from the ages of 8 or 9 to about 16. But the overarching umbrella organization of Ramah also has programming for adults. And it's called Ramah Adult Institute. It has a number of programs, one of which is trips to Jewish sites. Poland, and believe it or not, the upcoming trip, which is late October, is to Morocco. Really. And Minette and I are just squeezing our teeth that it happens to be right in the middle of Katie's Moroccan dinner and our artist in residence program. And
it's also cooked salad.
And it's driving me nuts. But hopefully next year they'll do a Morocco trip. And as soon as I find out, I will let you know.
Please, because I'm actually trying to plan one with my cousins.
So the details of this trip were exceptionally well organized, and we had a group of 21 people. 95% of them have, in one way or another, parental or their children relationships to a Camp Ramah.
Wow.
And we had some fantastic guides. So of the 1,000 pictures that I brought home, or maybe more, I winnowed down to a mere 40 or 50, some of which were slightly repetitious and will go quickly. But I want to start with just a comment. First and foremost, what we now call Poland has had various names, including Central Europe, including Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland. In Hebrew, the typical name given to Poland is Polin. Polin is a name that is playing on words. When Jewish people first started coming into Poland in the 1100s and 1200s, they are coming from a variety of locales across Europe. And many of those locales were inhospitable to Jews, chasing Jews out. So while some of the local peasantry were calling it Poland, or Polos, or Polonos, Jews called it Polin. And Polin could be derived from 2 Hebrew words. Po, lean. Po means here. Lean means lodge or dwell. So Jews were saying to themselves, we can lodge here. We can dwell here. We will be safe here, in contrast to many other kingdoms across parts of Eastern and Central Europe. Bearing in mind that 2 Polish kings in the 1200s and 1300s invited Jews to come into Poland, in contrast to an expulsion from Britain and other locales. So Poland. So slide. So here's Poland, and this is Warsaw, where usually trips begin, and we began in Warsaw, and I'm skipping Warsaw except for one point, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But you might be familiar with the name of the town, Białystok. Bob, can you focus? Is that the best you can do in terms of the writing? It's a simple focus in the front of the judge. Just twist left and right. Is that clearer? So.
Is that better?
No, go back. Go back. Stop there. Go back. So, while the tour began in Warsaw, we're going to jump to a small town outside of Białystok. Our tour centered along first the north and then running south, if you will, along the eastern edge of what we call modern Poland, which is for centuries, and has been for centuries, a very strongly Jewish populated region. So, slide please. We're now inside the main Jewish museum in Warsaw, and it's called Berlin. And the next just stay here for a second. The next 2 or 3 slides continue this scene. This is a mock-up of a shul that was destroyed. And I do not remember where this shul was in Poland. It was destroyed by the Nazis. But it is an old shul, and there are many shuls across Poland even today that are 300, 400, 500 years old, still standing, although the very large proportion of shuls were destroyed by the Nazis. So in this enormous Polin museum, which you and I would consider something akin to a Smithsonian institution, when you're in one wing, you are looking at and walking through a room, perhaps the size of this room, a mock-up of a synagogue. And this is the bima of the synagogue, and you can see the artistry here and the coloring. Okay, next slide. Looking at this. Vayehi bin Soah Aaron, Vayomer Moshe. Very famous prayer. And you'll see on a number of pictures of walls of synagogue, prayers painted on the walls of synagogues. This is a significant motif in terms of the culture of the Polish Jewish community.
Are those painted rather than tiles?
These are paints.
Huh.
These are all painted. This is all painting. Now again, this is a reconfiguration, a reconstruction. So it's modern, brand new, if you will. The Polin Museum is, I don't remember, 15, 20 years old.
But we didn't see much tile work. It was all painted.
It's all painted. You're exactly right, Minette. It's all painted. Next slide.
Yeah.
Slide. Okay, here's the elephant, Roll Tide. I couldn't resist. But look at the artistry here. By the way, this is the follow-up to Vayehi Soah. Uvnuhoyomar Shuva, and then Kilakatov Natelekafentorot Yaltazovu. It's the introductory line of the 8th High and P, putting the Torah back into the ark. And I didn't take pictures of every single one of these panels. You saw on the first slide how many panels there are. But again, these are parts of the service, and they are literally painted on the walls of the building. It's a very ornamented slide. Think about it. It's a very ornamented type of Hebrew. You're exactly right, Karen. It's decorative. Look at the colors. Look at the color. Next slide. Okay, so we're leaving the Polin Museum, and at a certain point in time, I'll come back and I'll do a more expanded version. Like I said, I had the window down. I couldn't do all 1,000. So we're now moving to Tikochin, and when I showed you the map a little while ago, we were in Warsaw, and we moved up to almost Białystok, which is a very famous community. Tikochin is a small town the size of a peanut outside of Białystok, the northeastern sector of Poland. And here we are just looking at the sign on the side of the highway. Tikochin is a very famous Jewish community, and I'll tell you more about that next slide. Oh darn, okay, I just wanted you to see a pretty picture outside the window. I'm sorry it didn't come out well. Skip. Okay, this is actually for John. Here's a cow. I was hoping John would be here today. So, can I take a picture of a cow whenever I found a few pictures of cows. So,
It could be related.
so, Roll Tide, and here we got a cow. Polish countryside, folks. It's green. Very agrarian. In many sections, very rural, very pretty. A lot of green fields, a lot of trees. It's a very pretty countryside. And in fact, a lot of it looked a lot like Robertsdale as we're driving along. Next slide. Minette said, take a picture of that.
Yeah.
So we were
Atlanta.
the smartest person I know. She said, oh, you got to grab a picture of that. So I did. So
Thank
welcome
you.
home. Right? We're in northeastern Poland right now, folks. Northeastern Poland. Here we go. Next slide. This is the front of the Tikochin shul. This shul was built in 1640, which is fairly late because Jewish people come into Tikochin in the 1500s. Jewish people were in Tikochin in northeastern Poland for 1500s. It's a small village, 4,000 or 5,000 people. For centuries, half of the town was Jewish. Half of the village, for 300, 400 years, perhaps more, half of the townspeople were Jewish and half were not. Literally, there was a shul on one side of the town, and there was a church on the other side of the town, and the marketplace, the market square, was in the center. And Jewish people lived in their homes, usually closer to the shul, which makes sense, because they would walk to shul, and the Christians lived in their homes near the church. But the market square, where daily commerce took place, was in the center, and both communities, if you will, had access to marketing and to interaction with each other. And they lived side by side in a small village of 4,000 or 5,000 people. You can imagine how small the area is. Some of our neighborhoods in Mobile would not be this small. And they lived, as best as we can see, in very good terms for centuries. And the Jewish people first come to Tikocin in northeastern Poland in the mid-1520s, 1530s, 1540s, and they settle and they dwell there, and they start and stop, and they finally build a shul in 1640. This shul is from 1642.
Oh my gosh.
And it's still standing. 1642. This is the year 2017. And this shul is almost 400 years old.
Why did the Nazis not
I
get
don't know. I mean, they destroyed the entire Jewish community.
Yeah.
And we saw the remnants of part of the cemetery. The Jewish people are gone, but, and I didn't include this in this specific series tonight, next picture, but there is a little restaurant, next picture, next slide, Bob, and there's a sign, in Hebrew, come to this restaurant, because there are a fair number of Israeli tourists who come to this area. So the restaurant that says, come here, with Hebrew written on it, and it's not a kosher restaurant, is advertising to the Israeli tourists who come, because Tikocin is a very important spot. And in the 17 and 1800s, next slide, in the 17 and 1800s, this was a significant spot in northeastern Poland. Next slide. And many significant writers and teachers and rabbis and Jewish politicians, Jewish communal leaders, grew up and lived in and near Tikocin, and it was what you would call a regional center of Jewish life, of Jewish commerce, of Jewish interactivity, of Jewish administration, of Jewish interactivity for people in the region. Tikocin was a very important part of Jewish life in the 16th, 17th, 1800s. So again, you're in the Tikocin shul, and these right here are flowers on this archway. This is the arch above the bima. And these are prayers along the side. Next slide. Wow. Imagine walking into a building and seeing every wall covered with these scenes. Some of them are prayers, and some of them are scenes from Bible and commentaries. So here we go, just for a minute. V'zot ha'torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. That's what you say when we pick up the Torah, when we finish your Torah service, right? This is the Torah. Okay, next slide.
Was this because they didn't have books? Prayer
This
books?
is the Torah now, and I haven't figured this out yet because I'm just now becoming a student, but now I'm intoxicated, and I want to start studying about Polish Jewish history of the 15th to 1800s. So I don't know if they didn't have any prayer books, and this was truly a functional element, or if they had prayer books, but they wanted to decorate their building. Mm-hmm. And whether or not they had prayer books, they still wanted to decorate their building. Mm-hmm. We have beautiful stained glass. We have a gold-covered ark. Mm-hmm. We've got a tapestry covering our ark in the small chapel. We've got beautiful carpeting. We've decorated our building. We have wallpaper. And we have paint. They had plaster of Paris and paint. I kind of want John to see this so that we can play with their minds of painting prayers along the hallway.
Watch him.
Don't give him too many.
Too many projects, but so he's not kind of lucky that he's not volunteering right now.
Bert wouldn't let you put it on the walls.
Look at the ornamentation next to the V'zot ha'torah. Just beautiful. Next slide. I'm just showing you pictures. I'm seeing this archway. It's a big, massive stone archway. And again, up here, these are flowers. And I didn't take every single picture and put it up there because it would take forever. Okay, keep going. Next slide. Here's the bima. All this woodwork in the center of the building with this cupola, I guess you might call it, over the bima. The bima is in the center as opposed to up front. This is Ashkenaz, this is Polish. This is 1600s. Ashkenazi Polish architecture, bima is in the middle of the room.
Okay.
The 1600s. Keep going. Next slide. Okay, so if you will, just give me a second. Let me translate because this will knock you out. Master of the universe, I and my dreams are yours. My dreams are yours, and may it be your will, you, Heavenly Father, that all of my dreams are upon you and also upon Israel for goodness. May my dreams be for the sake of goodness and peace. May it be that my dreams are for those other people in the world, so that they shall be good, and there shall be a dream. And established within the dream of all dreams shall be the potential for moving in a pattern, in a method and a direction of peace and shalom.
That's from the threefold blessing, the Hellenic blessing.
No, we don't have the words. This is halom. Halom means dream. That's 5 times.
That's down further.
I never showed Nope, I don't see it. It's not dream, no. So, and here, okay, this, then, that's right. And just as you transform the curse about to be uttered by Bilam, the wicked man, from a curse into a blessing, and so may you transform all the dreams that I have for myself and for all of Israel into goodness and blessing. Someday I'm going to write that down in clean words. And anyway, so let's.
Wow.
Now again, look at this panel compared to this panel. I don't know if this panel was redone, redecorated. I don't know enough about the Tikkun Shul. And I don't know how many centuries old that panel is in contrast to this panel here. You see this has been, is it erased? Has it been touched up? Next slide.
It's been etched.
So, again, I want you to see the size of this building and these windows. Keep going. Next slide.
Okay, now those were windows, though. That was the women's section.
Down below the women's section. Yes, you're right, man. Yes.
Oh, really? It looks like a brig.
Well, these are
In here,
women are sitting behind here, behind these crates.
you can hear, you can see a little bit, but you can't really.
Hey.
Right. Next slide.
Hey.
Just again, different view. But look how in every corner. Here's another piece in this corner. Okay, next slide.
So they allow women in it now.
1 second. This is our group. By the way, I was aiming at the floor for a reason. I got very emotional in Tikkun Shul because this was July 2017. The Nazis came into Tikkun in 1942, and within a day, more than 1,000 people were killed, and the second day, the rest of the Jewish population were killed and evacuated. I don't know how often since 1942-43 Jewish people have come into this building or not. This building was built in 1640, and 300 years later, to the exact year, 1642 to 1942, the Jewish population that built this building was gone. And so for me, it was very emotional when our group of 21 Jewish people, men and women from different parts of the United States, led by 2 Israeli tour guides. We were in that shul, and we sang Oseh Shalom, and we were about to do Mos Kaddish, and I was looking at the floor, picturing when was the last time Jewish people were walking along this floor, other than tourists. And that's why I took a picture of the floor. And about 5 minutes after we finished our morning prayer service, a group of people came in, largely non-Jewish, and they were looking at us because we still had our talis and tefillin on, and we were slowly taking off our talis and tefillin, getting ready to begin the rest of our tour. And they were taking pictures, and in my own mind, I was in a very different place. Because yes, I and my wife were there as tourists, but my wife and I and our friends were there as descendants of people who, for one reason or another that I don't know, maybe God knows, weren't taken to the camps, but we and our ancestors grew up here so that we could 300 years later go back. And that's a different experience than whatever was prompting those tourists of their own to come. And frankly, I'm glad they came, because as long as people are coming to any synagogue or any site in Europe, on one level or another they are remembering, and frankly the sites will have to stay open. When people stop coming, that's the disaster. Next slide. Now we're in one suit. There are 2 L's in Polish. I learned a lot, but I need to learn more. Dzień dobry means good morning in Polish. So there are 2 L's in Polish. There is a regular L, and then there's an L that has a line through it. If you're familiar with the number 7 in European style, with a line slashed through the vertical column, it's the same thing in an L in Polish, and the L with a line through it is pronounced as a W. I don't have that capability on my computer, so that's why it's written in one suit. But Lvov is Lvov. Lodz is really Łódź. Lublin is Lublin. One suit is really one suit. So we're now traveling somewhat south. We had been in the northeastern quadrant, and now we're slightly down along the eastern side, slightly more central, in a town called Wandsut. Next slide. I thought that was pretty. Poland, and again, I didn't bring 950 some odd pictures, and lots of Poland is just very pretty. Parts of it are very, very pretty. Lublin, which I didn't put up here because we would be here for another half hour, is a very pretty city, both Jewishly and architecturally and generally. Lublin is a thriving modern city. Again, it's on the central eastern side, and I just didn't bring pictures of Lublin because I wanted to do something else. Okay, so now we're in Wandsut, and there's a pretty statue. That's our bus. That's our bus. See, pretty statue. There's the globe in the corner. Okay, next slide. Now we're walking to the Wandsut Shul. Again, Jewish people are living in Wandsut, small town of some 5,000 to 10,000. Again, half of the Jewish population for 200 to 300 years was Jewish. Jewish community built a shul in Wandsut in the early 1700s. The shul you're going to see is from the 1700s. Next slide, 1700s. Just after the war, there were a few survivors, and the cemetery had been ransacked. So look at this for a moment. And people didn't know what to do with the headstones from the vandalized, ransacked Jewish community cemetery. So they brought them to the shul. They brought the headstones of their cemetery to the shul. And when you walk into the Wandsut Shul, a building that's been there for 300 years, operation for 250 to 300 years, in the open foyer front room, you'll see this collection of broken headstones. Next slide. Next slide. So look at this. Look at these artworks, folks. Look at the colors. And again, I don't know when this was retouched at some point, but the show is from the 1730s. 1730s, they built this show. And again, you see a very ornate cupola, I suppose you might call it, above the bima, and the bima is in the center of the room. And you see all this painted ceramic decorative work. Right? And you see more paintings around. You see the edging. Okay. So here's the. So back up 1 second. Back up 1 second. So here's the ark. We'll get to the ark in just a minute. Okay. Next slide, please. 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. Traditionally, in Jewish life, when do we say the 23rd Psalm? On 2 occasions. No, even before that. Funeral is fairly recent, and that's not when it first originally started. No. When's the real occasion you say the 23rd Psalm in Jewish life?
Yom Kippur?
Nope.
What's
When?
death?
That's recent, but not originally. Hundreds of years ago, no.
I don't know.
Late Shabbos afternoon.
Really? Oh,
Between
that's why.
Mincha and Ma'ariv, that's when Jews say the 23rd Psalm.
That's why.
Rita's question. I don't know if they had prayer books or not. And if they did, fine. But this is really very pretty. So it's the 23rd Psalm. And over here, this is the contribution either of or by, I'm not sure this abbreviation, of Rachel, the daughter of Naphtali, or in honor of Rachel, the daughter of Naphtali. So
Right.
guess what? They had plaques, they had a building
Yes.
campaign,
They
had the
did.
chairman of the pledge drive.
They don't have one over the water fountain, I
No,
bet.
not on the water fountain, but they have the chairman for the pledge drive, and if you want to make a contribution, it's gratefully received, and we'll put a painting on the wall, 23rd Psalm, either in honor of or done by Rachel, the daughter of Naphtali. So, not too much has changed in 250 years, right?
That's why they did it 150
My
years
daughter
ago.
did a digging in Getty, and they uncovered some tiles in an old synagogue. And the bottom of the tiles in the synagogue were people's names who had apparently given money to build the synagogue.
Not a
So it's at
surprise.
least 2,000 years
That's
old.
right. When we went to Beit Alpha, Karen and I remember we went to Beit Alpha. That show is very famous. It's from the 500s, only 1,500 years ago. And the first thing, mosaic tiles, and it says, given by the name of, and it's so-and-so, Ben so-and-so. That means son of. So, next slide. Now, this is immediately below the 23rd Psalm, and you can see the differentiation. Again, this is a faded, and I don't know, because there are not that many people you can find out, because there are not that many people around the ones who can tell you the history of the shul. How often was the shul renovated or touched up? Our shul has been in operation for 27 years. Katie and John have right now just started our major renovation with painting and some wallpaper. We've been here for 27 years, and frankly, we could have left it alone, but we decided it's time for something to make it pretty. But it wasn't really falling off the walls yet. This building is built in the 1730s. So however much of it was from the 1730s until whichever point in time locals began to renovate it. Do you see what I'm driving at? The building is in great shape. It's 250 years old or whatever, right? Keep going. Next slide. This is what I want you to see. I want you to look at the color. And I have about 8 of these pictures. But look at the colors. Blues,
Red,
reds,
white,
greens.
and blue.
Next slide. New prayers, just, okay? Next slide. Here we go. So 1 second. So pardon me. This is a phrase from the Friday night prayer service. It's just before the L'Chadavi. And so I don't know if this is only declaration or if perhaps Chazan might have been singing, or maybe people in the show were singing this phrase along with getting ready for L'Chadavi. So, but you can see these colors look very, very vital and vibrant. And I'm guessing this was touched up at a certain point in time. The Big Ten, obviously, the Lions of Judah, the crown, not a 7. This was done in the year of, and the year is not put in. I think this is a redo, a renovation. So I don't know when the renovations were done. Karen, I'm sorry?
I was asking for that answer. We were asking, is there a functioning minion in this town?
No. No.
Is there a functioning church community in this town? I mean, the Hebrews is so outstanding that it would be hard for me unless there was a functioning minion to understand who's doing the renovation.
There are occasional tour groups that come through which can help motivate a hodgepodge of occasionally municipal agencies or energies, and occasionally governmental energies or agencies. And when Minette and I noticed, we saw 2 non-Jewish custodians. And in a minute, when I remember, I may jump to a different spot and ask Bob to show this picture. We saw 2 in 2 different towns, non-Jewish custodians who, for reasons known to themselves and God, have taken Shuls under their wings. One of them is from Tikochin, the first building we saw, which is in the northeastern section. That's the 1640 Shuls, it's the older than this. And the second was from, no, he was from, that's American. He was from, Adam was later. So I don't know if we have a caretaker for this building.
Could it be in conjunction with anything going on in Israel, restoring?
Not so much. Actually, what we really find is there are agencies. One of them that does some of this work is what's called the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, nicknamed the Joint. Another, which surprised us, in a cemetery in southeastern Poland, was a cultural organization that wanted to talk about cultural preservation of European sites, and believe it or not, some of the funding came from Iceland and the Polish government. So I took a picture of this, and it's buried somewhere. Next slide. This specific cover to the art came from a donation from Israel. That's all we said. Next slide. So again, look at these paintings on every wall. And they go on and on. Keep going. Next slide. Let me see. Okay. So, may it be your will, God of our God, God of my ancestors, that you make me as if I were. And now he's playing off of the lulav and etrog for Sukkot. Make me as if I were a beautiful tree with branches of beautiful palm branches and willow branches and branches that stand by the brook. And for you, it is very precious that all of these things be brought together. And I'll stop here. So we've got poetry here.
Right.
It's not really a prayer that's come in the prayer book, but we've got poetry. Next slide. So, may it be your will, Heavenly Father, that you. This is like the Hashkidenu, but it's written in the singular. Help me to lie down at night and cause your sheltering, protecting presence to dwell amidst me, upon me. So this is prayers, right? This is the special Vahi Binso that we use on Simchas Torah, which starts off with Atah Ha'arei Ladat. It's in our Sudur. This is the introduction to the Vahi Binso. On Simchas Torah, we take out all the Torahs at night. Remember that? That's unusual. So this is a special form of the Vahi Binso. Next slide. Look at the paintings above.
I was wondering if that was painting or tapestry.
That's painting on a plaster raised ceramic with bumps outside. Not ceramic, it's a plaster, but it's a texture. Next slide. Same thing, next slide.
Oh, I
Look
see.
at the colors. See the blue, red, green? Now some of this has been obviously updated. Here's a hallelujah. This is the first psalm in the book of Psalms. Ashrei Ha'yish. Next slide. Look at the colors. Okay? Look at the side pictures. So imagine walking into a shul and seeing every wall painted with pictures that allude to creation, themes in the Bible, prayers, poetry. Every wall covered. Right, look at these colors, folks. These colors. Next slide. Ribon Olamim Adon, master of all the created ones. That's us. May it be your will that you bless us in a special way as you dwell upon high. Then, mashgiach, supervising those who live below. For you are the only and unique God, compassionate and loving for all those shavim l'fanav b'tshuva, who wish to come back to you in teshuva, in returning sincerity. It's just on the wall. It's not an official purple prayer book, it's on the wall. Next slide.
You don't see this in the churches over there, that's for
So,
sure.
I don't know. I just like the picture, so next.
Oh,
okay.
this is neat.
That's the same thing, but okay, next slide. So, okay, folks. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishenotecha Yisrael. Stop. Okay, but that's the phrase. And you see here, these are pictures, and these are 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are zodiacal signs.
That's what I thought.
Okay. Then we have a little bit more over here. Next slide. La'asod ritzon avicha shebashamayim, to do the will of your God in heaven. This is addressed to each and every one. V'hashev kohanim la'avodatam. It's the priestly blessing. So restore the kohanim to do their job, their service. Next slide. Look at the gold here. This we saw in a number of shuls, and it kind of woke me up when I saw this. So at least 2 shuls, and I think a third. As fleet as a deer and as mighty as a lion. I saw that in one other shul and maybe a second shul, and I didn't put in all my pictures because it took forever. But anyway, now look at this. This is the gold outside painting, as opposed to all those bright blues and reds and greens covering panels. See, different artistry, same shul. This is built in the 1730s. And again, I don't know how many times the building was recently updated, but and the building's there. People are gone. People are gone. Cemetery, nothing left. Next slide. This is kind of a prayer. It's, remember, O God, your love of Yerushalayim, Ahavat Zion, the love of Zion, Al Tishkach L'Netzach, don't ever forget. And that's the city of Jerusalem. Artistically, okay? Next. Now we're in Krakow. That's the Polish way of saying Krakow. So we started near Białystok and with Tikocin, northeastern Poland, very significant. We traveled south. I skipped Lublin because it would have taken a lot to explain Lublin. And now we're in Krakow, which is a little bit, slightly more central, and eventually the trip is going to end out of Krakow. Okay? Next slide. Look at this. And actually, this is a show we didn't visit on the tour. I went on my own one day, and I snapped a couple. This must have been perhaps a Sunday. The Shabbos morning, I went in a davened here with a man from the tour, 2 men from the tour. And again, there's a women's section, and I don't think any women went to this show. There's a very small, crowded, cramped women's section. And I said, this is pretty, I'm going to go back and take pictures the next day. So good. So now here we have the ark in the front wall, and we have a small bima in the center with not really a cupola like you saw in the 2 other shuls. So architecturally the feature is similar. Bima is in the center, but it's a low bima ornamented by this metal scroll work or grill work around the bima. So that's where the aliyahs are, that's where the Torah reading is taking place. It's a central group behind the metal grating. Okay, next. So look at the artwork here. Gold, and all the paintings, the blues and the reds and the chandeliers, and again, Hebrew phrases. This is a different style. This is Krakow. This is the 1800s. This is newer. It's not the 1640 or the 1730. This is, I'm not sure which part of 1800s. This shul is called the Isaac Shul. I think I read that right. I can't remember for sure. I couldn't find all my notes. So, but we'll get to this in a moment. Look at these panels, and you see these ovals. You'll see the oval in just a minute. Next slide. This is Noah's Ark. Fruits and so on. Now I don't know what that is. So, something like a line or a salad measure. I don't know. Something. Artwork. Okay. These are flowers. Flowers. We like flowers. Everybody likes flowers. And then we'll get to this in just a minute, which was just like the oval I showed you in the previous picture. Next slide. Flowers on the grate. Flowers. Paint them on the ceiling. Paint flowers on the ceiling. Rita, that's your job. Paint some flowers on the ceiling.
Yes, sir.
You get a week.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Next slide. Here we go, folks. That's a zodiac sign.
The scales.
Scales. Which month do you associate scales with?
Libra.
How about in Hebrew?
Oh.
It says Tishrei. Why Tishrei, Devorah? In Jewish.
Is that when we got the
The
laws?
scales.
We're weighing them down.
Weighing
Oh,
the balance,
Sukkot.
folks. Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, Rosh Hashanah.
The mitzvahs on one side and the not so good mitzvahs on the other.
okay.
The un-mitzvahs on the other side.
Okay.
Right? We're in a balance.
Right.
So you're in your balance. You know, your credits, your mitzvahs, and your debits. Your averos. That's the negative. So we want the credits, the mitzvahs, to outweigh the, as we say in modern Hebrew, we want the plus to be more than the minus.
But it's okay.
Look at it, level's okay. So I just found that pretty, and so I took a picture of that. Folks, can you read this word?
Mazel.
Mazel. When you hear mazel, what do you think about?
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, good. Now what's mazel tov mean? Gabrielle, what's mazel tov mean? Kind of like congratulations, and that's how we use it. But originally, this is the trick. Most of you don't know this. Originally, it didn't mean congratulations. Or luck. It didn't mean luck. What did it mean?
It meant energy.
Nope.
It was a force of
Based on
energy from the world.
Try again.
The constellations.
Constellations are not the world. The constellations. Mazel Tov refers to a Jewish superstition that you were born under a lucky star.
No
Or
kidding.
you were living under a lucky star, or perhaps your job, halavai, would take you to a certain circumstance under a lucky star to have a good parnasa, an income to take care of yourself, your family, and so on. Mazal Tov is a way that we call and say, may there be a lucky star, a good star above you, referring to a couple thousand years ago when Jewish people believed in, or some Jewish people thought of, or maybe thought about astrology. Lately, past X number of hundreds of years, thankfully we've gotten away from astrology and we have slightly transformed it, and now we call it congratulations, good luck. But when you see artwork in old shuls, in medieval shuls, and archaeological excavations in Israel that refer to zodiacal signs, you'll likely see the word mazel, because mazel is a zodiacal reference. It's a constellation. Next picture. Oh, I think that may be it.
Oh,
I think that might be it.
no.
Can we go back to the beginning?